And welcome back, everyone, to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. I'm your host, as always, LitecoinLeader. Today's show is going to be a little bit different, but aren't they all anymore? Today, we're just going to talk about where are we heading, where are we going, and how can we use some of the context clues and tools that exist out there to get an idea of where Bitcoin may go. And of course, where Bitcoin goes, so does the rest of the cryptocurrency market. That's just how it goes these days. So where is Bitcoin headed? How can we learn from it? How can we learn from the tools that are out there? Let's talk about it next.
Just a quick reminder that nothing in this video is considered financial advice. I am not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Seek out your own advice and do your own diligence, do your own research.
So here's the interesting thing today was that I was going to go pop up the Bitcoin US dollar chart and get an idea where we're at and show some charts today to get some viewpoints of where I think things are heading. And lo and behold, my charts from back in June when I first did the Bitcoin video for Altcoin are still there. So the funny thing is that I really wouldn't change them. And that's the funny thing about it. If you look at this picture, this is a daily chart for Coinbase of Bitcoin against the US dollar. And what I did was I did an Elliott wave theory. I did basically say, what if the time frame from, say, $11,000 Bitcoin back in December or November or even October to the $60,000 mark when we ran up in April/May, what if that was a wave one? And we're going to talk about Elliott wave theory. Let me jump over to something. I'm going to share a little bit of homework for you guys if you want to do it. Otherwise, just listen to me. That's fine. So here's a video from High Altitude Investing, which I saved, it was one of the better simple explanations of Elliott wave theory. And I'm going to show this in a larger view. So I'm going to scroll up here. And I'm going to show that this is a 5-wave up with a 3-wave down. So the Elliott wave theory, it's pretty simple. It just basically says that things go up. They tend to go up in a wave of 5 steps. 1, 3, and 5 are waves up. 2 and 4 are waves down. And and they give numbers here. The different people that do use different numbers for how big these waves are. But what is true, there's a couple rules that are true. The bottom of wave 4 is never below the top of wave 1. Otherwise, you violate the chart. But the other thing that's huge to remember is wave 3 is always the biggest wave. Now, you can measure these different ways and use different numbers. But the simple way to remember this is that 2 and 4 are your pullbacks. So they're typically about 50%, give or take. Okay, 50% pullback. And we talk about how you've heard before that a 50% pullback is a healthy number, and we're going to show that in the chart in just a moment. But the waves up, wave 1 it goes up a certain amount, and then wave 3 goes up somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5 times the size of wave 2, and that is your biggest move. And then wave 5 is somewhere in between in size. So wave 3 is what we're all hunting. Okay, wave 3 is what we want to find, and we're looking for 1.5 to 2.5 times the size of wave 2. That's the simple answer. That's all we need to talk about for Elliott wave theory for today. If you want to watch this video, I will link it in the description. It is a very good video, and this is some of the resources I provide over at LitecoinLeader.com. This is a great resource just to remember this chart, just this one picture will tell you up a certain amount, down 50%, up 1.5 to 2.5 times, back down 50%, and then up roughly 100% or I like to use 150% for wave 5. But that's what we typically go. But we're all chasing wave 3 because it's 150 to 250% of a move upwards. Now, we're going to jump over to the Bitcoin chart. And this is the chart I drew back in June. I really wouldn't move this much. I would move this chart here, wave the second. These are Fibonacci measurements. So what I did was I said wave 1 was from, say, October, November up into the 60,000 mark. That's wave 1. Now, if that was to hold true, then a wave 2 would be about a 50% pullback. Okay, so that would extend this chart actually over to right about here. Come on. I would just move this over in time. Come on, please move over. The chart's not playing nice with me. There we go. So I move over to about there. So we're moving extended in time, but we really didn't change the size of it. So if that's the case, that wave 1 went from October, November to the peak in April, and then wave 2 was the pullback to not long ago. So to look at the charts, similarly, we're just going to take the same chart and we're going to move that corner a little bit to here. So now, if that's true, then my other examples are pretty much true as well, which is that you take this and you extend it up to 1.6 is actually the number to 2.6, and that's your targets. So that's what I did on the next chart. Actually, this chart did it for me, and I set a target of 80,000 to 110,000. Now, actually, if you look at the lines, now that we've got a little bit better definition, we're looking at about 83 to 84, all the way up to, it's off the scale, 116,000. So we're looking at a target between 80 and 116,000 for Bitcoin, if this holds true. Now, what else do I see in the chart that might give me cause to pause here and take a harder look? One thing I looked at, and this is a cleaner chart because it's on a different site, so using BitBay for their price, but it's the same price. What I was able to do is I drew a line from the peak down and found this trend line. Okay, we broke out above this trend line, this line up on the daily chart down to this point, and then we did what's called a retest. We went back, we hit, and we retested this line, and now we're launching off of it. This tells me, with the volume that we saw today, and we'll talk about volume in a minute. All right, a couple things before we go on and I summarize this video for today, because my mind's all over the place. I'm trying to dial it in for right now. First off, to complete the thought about the 50% pullback. If we look back at the charts and we saw we went from 11,000 here up to, say, 63,000. That's a move of 52,000. So a 50% pullback would be half of that, or 26,000 coming down from 63. Doing some quick math, 63 minus 26, that is 37,000. Okay, so that pullback should have been to somewhere in the 30s, right? So there's your 38,000 line. And it pulled back even further. So your 50% retrace, which is a healthy number, should have said that it moves from 11 to 63 and should pull back somewhere in between, so somewhere in the higher to mid 30s. It pulled a little bit back further because we were still doing some price evaluation because we've not really tested it very hard above, since we set the all-time high of over 20,000 back when we crossed over in December. So we came back, retested it, and then we had this line that we drew, and there's been some volume upwards. So 50% pullback, that kind of sticks to where we're saying that this is a wave 2. So this is wave 1, this is wave 2. So wave 2, if we make this 1.5 to 2.5 times as large, it's going to not only get back to 63, but it's going to exceed 80 and can go all the way up to 120. To finish the thought for today, how can we possibly imagine Bitcoin at 80 to 120,000? Well, the classic stock to flow picture. So this chart shows that Bitcoin should go over $100,000 sometime between 2021 and 2022. Will that happen just yet? We don't know. We know we have dots in this period, but we're expecting it. This is to hold true. We should overshoot this probably before the end of year and be over 100, maybe even pushing 120, 130,000, and then come back to about this line. If this holds true, that tends to be the shape that we have seen for 3 times. We've overshot and pulled back, overshot and pulled back, overshot and pulled back. Now we're about to go up, and we're probably going to overshoot again. I would not be surprised to see 150. 200 might be a bit much to ask for, but it could happen. 200 to 250, anything is possible, but we're clearly heading in the upward trend on this chart based on past performance, not of price, but of, yes, but it's both the historical price of Bitcoin and also how it performs over its supply shock of the halvening. So we had the supply shock event of 2020 of they cut the supply. The market has to catch up. That is this ramp up period. That is what we see back here in 2017. It ramped up after the halvening. We did not see it immediately happen. It took some time for the supply shock to really balance out with what the price is and for the market to catch up. That's what Plan B is telling us, is that we should be overshooting probably over 150, then back down into the 120 to 130 range, somewhere in there, maybe even balancing out. It's tough because this is logarithmic. This line is 100,000. This line's 1 million. So it's somewhere around 100 to 200,000. And then as the next halvening, we're going to see over $1 million Bitcoin. That's what the chart tells us. That's what past performance tells us. That is what the code of Bitcoin tells us. So keep that all in mind. There's a clear picture that we are given here to say that Bitcoin, we may look back and just be laughing at these prices under 100,000 because it may never happen again. So there we go. That's where I see Bitcoin heading, using the stock to flow, using the Elliott wave theory, looking at how things are moving. I had trouble pulling up the volume. Sorry about that. But if you see a volume spike, I will tell you right now, look at the volume spike. If you see price go up or even goes down dramatically, but if let's say it goes up dramatically, take a look at the volume at the same time. And what they're possibly doing, it's possible, it happens from time to time, is that a whale does what's called a liquidity test. And a liquidity test is that they inject some Bitcoin into the market and just see how it behaves. They just like, hey, let's buy 10 Bitcoin and see how far that moves the price. They may only do that on one exchange, so the volume may be hard to find, may only be on a secondary exchange like Bitum or BitBay, something like that. May not be on Binance, may not be even be on Kraken or Gemini. Certainly won't be on Coinbase, but you'll see it. You'll see it, and someone will find it and say, "Oh, look, they moved the price of Bitcoin because a whale decided to buy 20 Bitcoin and see what happened in the market with that supply shock or that shock to the system." So that is what's called a liquidity test. If I go out and try and buy 10 or 20 Bitcoin, which most people can't, that's a lot of money, but they try and do it on exchange. How liquid is the exchange? That's what's called a liquidity test. If I go out there and try to buy 10 Bitcoin at market, am I going to gobble all of it up and drive up the price $5,000? If so, that tells me something. That information matters. That tells me I better, if I'm going to be buying that much, I better be doing it over the counter and not through an exchange, because the price will just ratchet up way too fast. So that also tells you how liquid or illiquid an exchange is. So that's what we're looking. We think the liquidity is drying up. Some of the numbers we talked about earlier today, I know that Bitcoin Ben mentioned some of these numbers, but here's the numbers that we know, right? Every 10 minutes, 6.25 Bitcoin are given out to a miner. That works out to be 900 Bitcoin a day. We also know that roughly 70% of all Bitcoin is held for a year or longer. That means only 30% of 900 or 270 Bitcoin, or roughly 11 or 12 Bitcoin an hour, are available in the market. Think about that for a moment. If I go out and if a whale decides to buy 11 Bitcoin, that's all the Bitcoin that should be there for an hour. Now, because with DeFi, and with miners not having to sell, they can borrow against it. That's the number one source of Bitcoin, is the miners, and they sell it so they can cover their costs of mining. If they're not doing that anymore, where's the Bitcoin coming from? The price shock is happening. It's happening now, and we're going to see the Plan B traffic, the chart play out. More than likely, not financial advice, of course, but this is what's just going to happen. It's simple, basic economics. When the first couple classes you take in economics 101 is supply and demand. As supply goes down, demand is constant. Price must go up because there's not enough product to supply to those who want it. It's simple, basic economics. Think of any rush on any store that, think like, the hot toy for Christmas at Walmart on Thanksgiving. This is the effect. That's what we're seeing. So look for the volume shock, look for supply shock, look for this to impact not just Bitcoin soon, but trickle down to all the other top 20 to 50 projects will certainly be happening as well. So lots to talk about today. There's going to be lots more. I will mention that I have received some entries for Altcoinopoly. I am getting to those. Thank you for those. I will be emailing personally the subscribers that I received it, and it looks good. So you will know that you're officially entered. So wait for that email, please. Let me catch up after taking some time off on the weekend. I'm allowed to do that, But speaking of taking time off, I don't want to take time off this week. So if you need help on anything crypto, questions big or small, contact me at the phone number 240-517-6051. It's all in the description, how to get a hold of me. Make an appointment if you want to talk for a while. If you have a quick question, give me a call. If you have a project that you want some advisement on, if you want to do some DeFi, if you want to learn how to become more liquid against your crypto, which is important now, learn how to use DeFi. Anything you have that's a crypto question. If you have a point of sale device, you want to add it to your business or want to learn how to put it in someone's business, call me and I will put you in touch with the right people. So, lots said today as always. I appreciate you visiting. I appreciate you watching. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and share this video, please. Let's help grow the adoption and the information out there. Lots said. Going to close the drawer on the bureau for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.